everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
We're super excited to have you with us today. Thanks for spending some time with us. We have another cool conversation to have with you, and we're excited to jump in. This is a pretty heavy topic, so I am just hoping we go into it with lots of self compassion and that we know that the truth prevails. We're going to be talking about inner judges and inner critics today. And the truth is, we all have inner judges that we carry with us from childhood. That's just true. I know a lot of the students that I've worked with, and also in my own personal journey, all kinds of stuff comes up when you're learning an instrument. I mean, things you never would have expected you'd be working through when taking a piano lesson. And so that's why Ashley and I decided this was a super important topic to talk about, because we just find that the piano really is masked therapy. I mean, let's be real. This is just another way that we work through hard things, and that's a beautiful thing. It's not all it's about, but it's a pretty significant part that a lot of music education doesn't include. And so we're here to dig into the good stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff that we need to be aware of in order to transform and evolve. So as I said, we all have inner judges. And Ashley, I'm curious, do you have voices that creep into your life now? And if so, how? Do you think this affects your creativity? And how can you acknowledge these voices without believing them? I know it's a big question, so you can just choose whatever you feel is relevant to your journey and share. I'm sure it'll be super impactful.
Sure. So how much time do you have? No, I'm just kidding.
I know, it's for days.
Right? So I do, for sure. I mean, I think it's a very human thing to have inner critics and inner judges. It's an unfortunate thing, but I have yet to meet someone that is unaffected by the human experience of being hard on themselves at times. And, of course, that comes with varying levels and to varying degrees and in varying situations. But I agree with you. I see it in myself. It definitely happens in my journey. And I also see it in my students. And for me personally, the voices for sure creep into my life. I think it affects my creativity very negatively if I listen to those voices. My inner critics oftentimes will tell me that I'm not doing a good enough job. And I think at a young age, it became really important for me to do a good job, quote unquote, whatever the heck that means, and to succeed and to do well and to get that positive feedback and that positive reinforcement. And whatever the perfect storm of events was, I will not bore you by going into deep therapy, but I did become a perfectionist along the way and learn that things needed to be controlled and things needed to be perfect or, quote unquote perfect, because nothing really is perfect, in order for me to be okay with it. And so while I will now tell people often that I'm a recovering perfectionist, I'm aware of it, it still is there. And I'm surprised sometimes by my initial thought that pops into my head sometimes is not a nice thought. Sometimes it is an awful, awful thought. And I think for me, a part of my journey as just in my adult life has been first becoming aware of that voice, just knowing that it's there and knowing what it's saying. Because I think as we all grow up and as we all walk through life, there's not a thought check, right? It would be really great if we all had an external computer that would check our thoughts for us, but we don't. And so we often have these internal conversations with ourselves about stuff. And I think that people often don't realize how awful they are to themselves and how negative that voice can be. And so for me, cultivating an awareness of what that voice was even saying was important. And once that awareness was there, questioning what the voice was saying. I think that's the most powerful thing we can do in probably most situations in life, but is to question ourselves, question other people, question the thoughts we have, question the situations we're in, question the things society has taught us, but just to question that voice. And so that's what I really try to do now when I hear those thoughts. It's not as much of a normal thing, thankfully. I feel like I've really tried to weed my mind so that it is a more pleasant place to be as I've gone along this journey of life. And in doing so, it's made it easier to recognize, those really harsh critic voices are are less often, and so I recognize them more, which is great. And then it makes it a little bit easier to question them. And once I question them, then it becomes real, and it can be like, okay, I don't want to believe that. I don't have to believe that. I'm going to let that thought go, and I'm going to replace it with the thought that I am going to cultivate in this moment that I really do believe that lines up with my authentic self. So I guess that's it in a nutshell. That's where I am with that one. But for sure, I mean, it's a practice, right? I think it's for sure a practice. And one of the things that I love about like authenticity, vulnerability, questioning our inner critics is it's all a practice. Just like you're never going to get to a point where you know everything about music. You're never going to get to a point where like, I've reached this goal. I am now a complete master. I know everything. That's never going to happen with any of this as well. So like when we're talking about inner judges and critics, it's just a practice. It's just a practice. Every time one comes up, we can practice questioning it. We can practice being aware of it. And we can practice doing something different if that's what we want to do. How about you, Stephanie?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, everything you said is so on point. And I think, like you said, acknowledging the voices and then rewriting a new story around them, or acknowledging them for what they are, but not letting them govern our lives, I think is a lot of our life's work. And yeah, I think as far as inner judges or critics go, I find it fascinating because I have like maybe 3 or 4 hypothetical thorns in my side that I've kind of always had. And I think that these little thorns in my side or inner judges are really just like kind of masked challenges I think that every person in life has. And I like to believe that every challenge that has been given to us has this like really amazing reward on the other side of it, if we can move through that pain or trauma or challenge or whatever it might be, and be shaped and transformed by it. And so my thought is that these little inner critics, right, are actually just it's like the other side of an empowered, evolved coin. And so what has really been trying to help me, or what I've really been trying to work on that has helped me, is trying to take every inner critic and sort of put it on its head and see how what is it trying to teach me, what is it trying to protect me from, what is it trying to open my eyes to. I think that maybe that's like a little bit of a positive spin on inner critics. But I really like to think that it's sort of like, how like all the Disney movies now, all the characters, even the villains, have these complexities, and like everybody becomes more evolved throughout the movie now. And in
Sure.
old Disney movies, it was like there was the good guy and then the bad guy. And, you wanted the bad guy to lose because he was so bad or she was so bad or whatever. And now it's like, it seems like these kids movies are starting to show the complexity of the villain, and how everybody has a story and everybody's doing the best they can given what they have. So my tangent here is saying that inner critics and inner judges are really just like villains that are misunderstood, that maybe like didn't have the opportunity to evolve. And so when I think about my inner judges now, I try to think about them like they are, small children who didn't, that learned these behaviors, that didn't know better, or maybe just something that, I don't know, we just face in life, and maybe there is no connection here. But I think when I approach my inner critic with the empathy I want to be approached with, then all of a sudden I can see the other side of that judgment, right? So yes, inner critics such as you're not smart enough, you need to be perfect, you need to act perfect, look perfect, you need to be, embarrassed of your imperfections, etc. You're responsible for other people's happiness, and if other people are unhappy, it's your fault. All kinds of different like weird inner critics that I know a lot of us have. But the bottom line is that like that was learned, and we can unlearn those behaviors and also teach our inner critics to maybe come with us on our evolved journey, and that we don't have to stay in the same place, and I don't want my inner critics to stay in the same place. I want them to evolve with me, right? It feels so much better when you're on the other side. And so what I've really tried to do with my inner critics, and I have a lot of them, is to just try to say, okay, what's the other side of this? And if I move through this and let this transform me for the better, how will this evolve me to the best version of myself that I can be in this short ride of life? And it's cliche and, overused, but, how did a diamond become a diamond, and how do we create these really precious stones and like these really amazing, like there's a million other examples, but where because of the pressure, because of the intensity, you come out the other side beautiful. And that's not to say that all the things in life, pain equals beauty. Obviously not. Like, you have to do the work, and you have to have, like, I mean, you have to be fiercely optimistic and fiercely positive and believe so deeply that you're going to get through it, that's how people become hypothetical diamonds, but I think that, when I think about my inner judges that I carry with me and how they creep into my adult life with my musicality and with everything, like, don't, being careful about how you use your voice and, how you look and all these just old things, you just have to say, you know what? No, we're going to grow together, So I think I'm going to take our little journal prompt advice, which is make a column of our old stories and our false beliefs. And then write on the other side stories with a positive mantra that flip the negativity on its head. Because I really like to think that these negative inner critics are really just, they want to evolve with us, And so I'm definitely going to do that this week because I think I need it. And I would encourage anybody who's listening to think about their inner critics, their inner judges, and then just kind of sit with them and see what they have to say and like, why are they in pain? Why are they hurting? And then rewriting positive mantras around their well-being, like, you can use your voice. You're beautiful the way you are. It's okay to have imperfections. You don't have to be responsible for other people's happiness, and the more you can say those things, the more you start to believe them for yourself. So
totally.
Those are my thoughts.
I love that. I love your thoughts. Your thoughts are so wise. I think you're so right. True. I can't talk. You're so right, and it's so true that oftentimes like that, those negative inner critics that creep in, I think, are protecting us. Like, while the voice can be jarring with its intensity or with the negativity, they're things that evolve to protect us. I know that about fear. Like, fear is not a bad thing. Fear can be a very helpful thing because it keeps us out of dangerous situations, and it's trying to protect us. It's just misinformed sometimes. So I like the idea of flipping it on its head. That is wonderful. We would love to hear from all of you if you can go deep and you can share what your inner judges and inner critics are saying, or you can just share your thoughts on this conversation or your point of view about this conversation, how you have, what is your relationship with your inner critics, and how do you deal with them on a daily basis and in your creativity? We would love to hear from you. And if you are enjoying listening and watching us, we would absolutely love it if you would share this episode with a few of your friends so that we can get this message to the people that need it the most. Thank you so much for being with us. We are so grateful to all of you. Have an awesome rest of your week.
Bye, everyone.